from Motorcycles to Cars, Tarun Garg, COO of Hyundai Motor India, joins us now. Tarun, good morning. Nice to have you on ET Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad we have been able to extend the invitation when we met in Delhi, and thank you for finding time. I'm going to first start with very basic questions. There seems to be a revival in the PV segment, passenger cars, and within that the trend clearly is tilted towards SUVs, not towards sedan and entry level cars. So what are thoughts on the first 2 points which I raised, the demand trend in passenger vehicles and the trend which is migrating towards SUVs?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And you're right, frankly speaking, calendar year 22, kind of the first full year after COVID, we had the highest volume in the Indian auto segment, in Indian auto market. And, on top of it, in calendar year 23, we had a growth of 8.2%. So very clearly shows that the passenger vehicle industry has had a very positive, run in both these years. And there are not too many countries in the world who have still reached the pre-COVID level. So that shows the resilience of India. And mind you, in 23, we were talking about macroeconomic stresses, the interest rates going up, the inflation being there, and despite that, the market in India was so good. Now the SUVs, very clearly, I think the trend is very clearly SUVs. In fact, last year we reached 50% SUVs, as a contribution. Who would have imagined that the Indian auto market would have 50% SUVs? But it happened. And as far as Hyundai is concerned, in fact, our contribution in our portfolio of SUVs increased to 60% last year. So customers are wanting cars which are more space, which have a higher ground clearance, which have more safety, which have better design, which have more features. I think this reflects the aspiration taking over functionality in the Indian auto market, which is very good. Shows that the mindset of the customer is changing, the disposable incomes are going up, and they want to really live their life. And I think all the OEMs are really introducing new models. We introduced the Creta in January this year, and of course then the N-Line as well a few days back. And the response has been overwhelming. We have already received close to 85,000 bookings for the Creta. Shows that customers are really going for SUVs.
Customers are clearly going for SUVs, Tarun, but help us divulge a few more details in terms of numbers. What's been the growth rate so far for you, let's say, in the year gone by? And for 2024, what kind of growth projections do you have in mind? Because it's going to be a very landmark year for multiple reasons for Hyundai in India.
So I would say that 23 indeed was a landmark year for us. We had a growth of 9%. I mentioned the industry grew by 8.2%, whereas Hyundai Motor India grew by 9%. We were able to increase our market share by 0.1%. And we launched some great products. And I think this is also reflected in the kind of media awards, which 3 of our cars, in fact, have become the car of the year by major publications, whether it is the Exter or the Hyundai Verna or even the Ioniq 5, shows that it was really a great year for us. In January this year, all of us, all auto OEMs under the SIAM Looking Ahead conclave, we sat together and then we were discussing on what could be the growth rate going forward. And we knew that we were coming off a very high base of last year, 22 and as well as 23. So we thought that a single-digit growth, a low single-digit growth is the consensus opinion by all of us. And SIAM, in fact, published the data as well. So somewhere around 3%, maybe 3% to 4% could be a good estimate of the 24 growth going forward for the auto industry, which I think is very good considering that we had such high growth years of 23 and 22.
I just missed the last part. Are you saying that the industry in 2024 will grow at 3 to 4% for PVs?
Absolutely. And what I'm saying is, as you know, we have SIAM, and SIAM organizes a conclave where they call all the OEMs, in fact, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, three-wheelers, commercial vehicles, and then they give a guidance on the projection for the next year. And all of us put together, with all our wisdom put together, we arrived at a number that, yes, the passenger vehicle industry for 24 could be somewhere around 3 to 4%.
Be 50% lower than what you did last year, to put it very simply in mathematical terms?
I think it is not simple mathematics because the base is going up, you know. So if you see, we had a 22% growth in 22 over 21, and that was highest ever. And then we had a 8.2% growth in 23 over 22. So as the base goes on, goes up, you know, so to maintain that kind of a growth rate always becomes difficult. The second aspect is even if you see a 10-year CAGR for the industry, say from 2013 to 2023, we are talking about 5.2, 5.3%. So I think sometimes we believe that only 9%, 10%, 12% are good growth rates. But in my view, as long as we are growing, that is very good. And especially considering the global landscape, I think India is in a much better space.
Okay, and having said that, I would also be curious to understand a little bit more about the EV plans that you have. There are premium offerings and ESUV that's on the horizon.
So yes, if you see the EV market in India last year, the penetration was about 2%. So we are much lower than the global, EV rates, especially say China or Europe. What I would say here is, as far as Hyundai is concerned, we launched the Ioniq 5 last year, and we have been able to sell close to 1,400 vehicles. The car has really changed the paradigm of how EVs were looked at in terms of range, technology, every which way, the EGMP platform, which gives us so much of flexibility. Yes, going forward, as you know, we have already announced that we're going to localize the battery packs. And I think that would really give us cost optimizations. And we have also announced that we are going to launch some high volume EVs going forward, and probably the first of which could come in early 25.
Okay, but Tarun, we can't let you go without, asking the question on the IPO in further detail. You talked about the launches which are lined up, but when is the launch of the IPO expected? Because we're all waiting with bated breath for that big IPO to happen in the automobile sector.
Look, we have no comments to offer on this, and we'll come back to you if and when we have any information on that.
Okay, so let's go back to business and let's understand that when you say 3 to 4% industry growth for the PV segment, I'm assuming that you're looking at a combined growth of SUV and sedan both.
Right, absolutely. This is the overall growth because hatches plus sedan plus SUVs, so all put together 3 to 4%, which means that yes, hatches are coming down. And just to tell you, Nikunj, if you see the hatches percentage, it has been consistently coming down. For the industry also now it is at 27%. I remember in my it's a 7 8 years back, this used to be as high as 50%, and now it has come down to 27%. So clearly the customers are shifting directly to SUVs, and in fact even the first time buyers percentage going to SUVs is going up continuously. We are seeing this in our venue model. Of course, if you have a great SUV, even in the less than 10 lakh price point, like we have seen with the Exter, I think you can still sell. But the question is of the body type, because customer feels that the hatch body type does not give him that kind of a flexibility, space, convenience. And also then 6 airbags becoming standard. I think this is again something very, very important, because safety is also becoming very critical for the Indian customer, and you have more flexibility in SUVs to provide even that.
Now at 3 to 4% growth, which is what the projected growth is, and given that capacity addition is kicking in, inventory levels are increasing, could discounting make a comeback? Discounting has been the missing link post-COVID. First, there was semiconductor shortage, then there was a huge demand influx. So the buyer, in a sense, never enjoyed benefits of discounting. But now that the base effect is kicking in, could discounting also start making a comeback?
So I would say, look, last 3 4 years, if you see, because of the increase in the raw material prices, the obviously the price value equation was not very favorable. Going forward, the prices have softened. Those kind of benefits, I believe OEMs keep on passing one way or the other to the customers, and discount, I think, is not something which you can really forecast, because it is a function of month to month, how the stock levels are, how the demand is. As far as Hyundai is concerned, we believe in always maintaining a very optimum stock level. So even today, if I see my stock levels are in the range of 3 to 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks, in fact. I'm sitting on an opening 1st March stock inventory of about 40,000. Which is dealer inventory of 40,000. So very healthy state of affairs, and we intend to really continue that way, because there's no point in having unnecessarily buffer in the system or unnecessarily stock, because that only puts pressure on the entire ecosystem. So we have always believed in that and the quality of sales, and going forward we continue on that. And so this is what I can say at this point of time.
Question, we've seen almost like a 30% surge in average car price in India in last couple of years. Combination of inflation and demand. गाड़ियाँ महंगी हो गई हैं. But now that things have stabilized on the input cost, raw material, and raw material as percentage of the total cost for auto companies is above 30%. Do you see that prices will start coming down? Do you see that if auto companies, not only Hyundai, but everybody else is considering, if commodity prices they come down, they will start introducing price cuts?
So I would say, look, you have to see the reason for these price increases. I think it is also to do with the regulations which have come in. We had the BS6, kicking in 2020. Then we had the RDE kicking in 2023. Then we had the 3-point seatbelt reminder. So I think as regulations go up, obviously the prices go up. Also, like I mentioned, some of the OEMs as well are introducing new features. Like, for example, from October, we became 6 airbag standard. So obviously it translates into a price increase. Or if we are introducing ADAS, or if we are introducing dash cam. Also, like I mentioned, aspiration is gaining more popularity over functionality. That is why you see the higher trims gaining momentum. Like, for example, in 2023, our high trim penetration has gone up by 4%. Now it is 24%, as against about 19.5%, 20%, which it used to be, say, 1 year back. So customers are wanting to really not compromise on the features, on the safety, on the entertainment, and that is how the prices have gone up, because the mix has also changed. So I don't think you can say that it is only, say, one aspect. So, and other thing is also that the geopolitical situations continue to be tough. The dollar rupee rate, or if you see the inflation or the interest rates. So I think it is very, very difficult now to project what's going to happen in the future. Who would have imagined that the Russia-Ukraine war will go on for so long, or even the Israel situation would go on for so long. So I think this is a very, very dynamic world where things are happening very changing very fast, and it's very difficult to really project on that front. So I think there are still a lot of challenges going ahead. So we have to see how the market behaves. At the same time, what is very clear is that from a earlier situation of being supply driven,
Right.
we have clearly shifted to a demand driven market.
Yep.
It is now the customer will decide how the sales happen. It is not only about that I have this, you have to take this.
Yeah, we have empowered ourselves, the customers that is, to make sure that it becomes a buyer's market. Thanks so much, Tarun, for making time and speaking with us and making sure that we have enough choices at our hands to make good decisions.